My name is Jody. I live in Bundaberg in the Wide Bay area in the electorate of Hinkler. I'm 32 years old. I've never drunk alcohol. I've never smoked. I've never gambled. I've never taken non-prescription drugs, and I can't have children. I have a part-time job, and Centrelink has deemed me capable of working 8 to 15 hours a week due to several disabilities. Today, as every payday, I woke up and I went to pay my rent, which is always the first thing I do when I wake up every payday. I was met with this, saying that I had exceeded my transfer limit. I didn't know how it was possible, since there is no way I can go over the limit for the 28 days, as I always do it on the exact same day of each fortnight. I called Indue to ask them why it had happened, and they said that my housing limit has been disabled, so they put me through to the Department of Social Services. They informed me that I had to refill out 2 forms in order to get my housing limit re-enabled. I have to fill out this one, I have to fill out this one and get my landlord to sign it again every 6 months. The card is apparently supposed to make it so I pay my rent on time every time. This time it's making it so I can't pay my rent at all. I've had to leap through so many hoops just to be able to pay my rent and bills. I can never be sure that each fortnight my bills will definitely be able to be paid. It sent my anxiety and panic attacks through the roof, which I never had a problem with before I was placed on the card. There is no way off the card for me, except through the exit program. I applied for the exit. Originally, I applied for the well-being exemption back when I was first placed on the card 6 months ago, and it was rejected. They said in the letter, which came with my rejection, that I would have no problems paying any of my bills or rent with the card. Obviously, they lied. I've again applied for the exit with their new legislation. On the 1st of July, I called and applied to exit. They put me on the waiting list and said that someone would be in contact with me. Over 2 months later, they finally provide the form that they originally said would have to be filled out in order to exit. So I filled out the form and I gave it to the Impact storefront, which works with Indue, and they sent it off to be gone over. And then the Tuesday we've just had, the 24th, I got a text message in the morning saying that someone from the Department of Human Services was going to contact me sometime that day. I'm still waiting for a call. It's now Friday, 4 days later, and they still haven't called me. I spoke to the DSS person today and mentioned that I hadn't been called back, and he said he'd look into it. No idea when I'm going to actually be called or contacted at all. The least they could have done with this housing limit running out of time, they could have sent me a text or an email or called me and let me know that I would have to fill out forms in order to be able to pay my rent, which I don't see them having to do every 6 months to be able to pay their rent. There are 11,600 people on this card. There are hundreds of people having the exact same problem paying their rent. I have seen people post nearly identical screenshots to this one. Hundreds of them. Just because Indue refuses to pay their rent due to the housing limit. If I breach my housing payments, I end up on the streets, as I'm in emergency accommodation. There is no somewhere else for me to go other than this. There are over 450 people waiting on the housing list. 239 of them, I think, are on the critical need section of that list. And the only response has been that they're going to be building another 50 houses over the next 10 years. 50 houses for 450 needing people. New Start is not enough. This rent here is literally half of my income. I don't have money for food. I don't have money for clothing. I barely scrape by with fuel and registration and insurance, and I also have electricity on top. There is no way at all that I can afford to live anywhere else. Every day on the support group that I helped start up, I see people in despair, not knowing whether their bills are going to be paid, whether their rent's going to be paid, if they will be evicted, if they will be defaulted on any of their bills and have to pay extra fees. The amount of anxiety and despair and stress is just heartbreaking. Because there is no way off for some people. If the exit does not go through, then there is no other way off it, if they're unable to work full-time. This isn't good enough. This simply isn't good enough. All I can do is share my story and hope that somewhere out there someone finds it and spreads the word so that maybe we can stop people being treated like subhumans by this government. They've been robbed of their right to presumption of innocence until proven guilty. They've been robbed of their self-determination. They've been robbed of their autonomy. If a domestic partner was doing this, then they would be charged with domestic violence under the government's own standards for it. There is no reason the government should be able to do this when a normal person cannot. I really don't know what more I can do. Luckily, they've managed to organise for me to be able to pay my rent for the next 2 fortnights. Hopefully I'll be able to get the form filled out, but my landlord seems to be getting sick of filling out forms, and I'm now worried how long is it going to be until she gets sick of filling out the forms and says, "No, move out, I've had enough." That's when I'm going to end up on the streets, because there's nowhere else. There's no emergency housing other than this. There's no Queensland social housing. There's nothing. All because I have to pay my rent through Indue. Hopefully someone out there can make us stand up and make them listen. Because I have been fighting this for years. and I'm constantly shut down by the lies of the politicians and the media saying that it's working, that there's no problems, that if you've done nothing wrong, then it won't affect you at all. Well, here I am. I have done nothing wrong except the crime of being disabled and poor. I have always paid my rent and my bills on time. I have not done anything that the card is supposed to stop me from doing, ever. And here I am, unable to pay my rent because of it. And I'm not the only one. So please, someone stand up with me and with the rest of us on this card and help. Because we can't see any way out. We can't see any way out because they've given us no way out. All on baseless assumptions. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this will help someone out there. Thank you.